would only say that she had a quote, frank and thorough discussion. So while Hegseth's nomination right now is in purgatory, there's also a discussion happening that Ernst may also be a possible contender. We've previously Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. But as one senator put it, just about any other candidate would probably have an easier time with this nomination than Hegseth right now. Katrina, Bob?
Tony Dukart fighting the crowds on Capitol Hill, doing a wonderful job. We appreciate it.
Throw those elbows. All right, thanks, Kel. And joining us now, Republican Senator from North Dakota and member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Senator Kevin Cramer. Senator, thanks so much for joining us on American Agenda. All right, out of the gate, how will you vote for Pete Hegseth?
Well, I intend to support Pete. I had a very significant, frank, and long discussion with him yesterday. I spoke with him on the phone a little bit a week or so earlier. He answered all of my questions to my satisfaction. He made the pledge to me that you reported on earlier, that he will not touch a drop of alcohol as secretary. I think that's really important. It's really important to me to know that if a phone call comes in at 3 in the morning, the Secretary of Defense is prepared to take that call with as clear eyes as you can have at 3 in the morning. I agree with Rick Scott in his assessment of Pete's strategy and of his priorities going into the Pentagon. He's going to kick down some doors. I think that's what the American people voted for. I don't think that should surprise anybody. I think that we need some reforms, to say the least. But what I really appreciate about what Rick said, and I believe this is Pete's greatest strength, he goes in as a warrior. We have millions of people in the military, and very few of them have stars on their shoulder, or even an eagle. They're not officers. They're the men and women of the Air Force, the Marine Corps, the Navy, obviously the sailors, the soldiers and guardians, and they would have a leader in the Pentagon that's more like them than like a former general. I love generals, and I think we ought to celebrate our generals, and we ought to aspire to be more like a lot of our generals. But I do think that Pete would bring that face of a deterrence. Deterrence isn't just a nuclear weapon system. Deterrence is an attitude. He brings that peace through strength attitude that I think would speak both to allies and adversaries around the world, as well as to the aspiring young military wannabes that we need to recruit into our service.
Senator, talk about the knowledge you learned from Pete Hegseth. I think a lot of Americans are wondering what, or maybe a lack of experience, maybe.
Sure.
What did you learn about him in your meeting?
Yeah, well, he's a warrior's warrior. I learned that about him, and I looked him square in the eyes, you guys. I mean, we had a very, very tough love discussion about things, some of the allegations and whatnot. But the thing that's really clear to me about Pete is that he loves America first. He is a patriot. He's demonstrated that by his own service. He demonstrates that by the work he continues to do, mostly on a voluntary basis for veterans groups. But I also learned that he's not afraid of the tough questions. He's not afraid to talk about his past, but I'm most interested in his future. And that's what fired me up about Pete. And so the other thing I learned about, he's very articulate. I think we've all known that. His talents as a TV personality are not insignificant when you're the face of a very large organization for a very large country with a very large military. That matters. But also that he understands the value of a team, surrounding himself with people who add value to what he does and fill in the gaps what he maybe doesn't do as well. So there's nothing I heard, Pete, that would cause me pause. And then I asked the very frank question: are there any surprises we should expect? Is there anything that could derail or embarrass any of us? And he said, "There's nothing." He said, "We've thought through it. I've racked my mind. Unless somebody makes something up," he said, "there's really nothing else that they can come up with." So I'm confident that Pete's the right guy for the moment, and that he'll do a great job.
Sounds like you asked all the right questions, Senator. Less than 30 seconds left to go, but I do want to ask you about this. We know the House Ethics Committee is going to meet today on whether or not they should release the ethics report on Matt Gaetz. Do you think they should release it now that Gaetz has stepped away from the Attorney General nomination?
Well, I'm glad that's their decision and not mine. I think the fact that he stepped away and that he's no longer a member of Congress, there's a lot to be said about the integrity of the institution of the House and its own, its own governance. So I would not blame the House at all if they did not release that information at this point, as curious as people might be, because again, you just need to protect those 435 members and the integrity, not just about the history, but the integrity going forward. So whatever they decide, I'm comfortable with.
Senator Kevin Cramer, thanks for coming on American Agenda. Stop back soon.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, joining us now for more reaction, former Republican Congressman Peter King, former